Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I wanted to do a real quick video talking about indoor cooking inside the van, and more specifically I want to show you a project that I'm working on to try and cut down on the humidity and condensation inside the van when you're cooking inside. Now obviously one solution is to just get a fan and cut a big giant hole in your roof and then vent all the moist air as you're cooking. So I'm going to be cooking right here on my top of my sink and my kind of countertop, and if I just cut a hole in the roof, I could just basically exhaust all of that moist air out of the van and not have to worry about condensation. Well, I don't want to actually have to cut a hole in my roof and have this giant fan sticking up on the top of the van that I have to worry about water incursion leaking in, as well as just basically screaming, hey, this is a camper van. So I am going to avoid that solution. So instead what I want to do is I've actually got this curtain rod. So I did a separate video on this where I showed how I installed this curtain rod in the van to basically do things like hold jackets and whatnot and all that kind of other stuff. Now what I want to try out is notice that portions of the curtain rod are directly above the sink, which is where I'm going to basically have a stove and I'm going to be doing my cooking. All right, so this is usually what I do, and obviously the problem is that moist air just goes right up right now into the headliner. So what I would like to do is use this curtain rod, and I'm going to see, can we install this hood? So this is a non-vented basically oven slash range hood. You see it's got a very simple filter in here, but it doesn't exhaust anywhere. It's got a fan that will basically suck air into this filter. So I'm going to try to jam this thing full of desiccant and maybe some deodorizers in there. And basically I want to see if I can stick this hood right here on the curtain rod, so it'll be above the stove. So anytime I'm cooking kind of smelly or damp or moist stuff, the smells, the odor, and the moisture will just go straight up and into the hood and basically hopefully get somewhat filtered and somewhat dried out. So that's a game plan. So let's go ahead and see how can we get that range hood mounted to this curtain rod as well as to the ceiling of the van. And before we do that, let's be like Marty McFly and go back in time, and let me show you what the hood looked like in the box. All right, so let's get this guy out of the box. So as you can see here, the box again is pretty standard. Like it says right here, this is my 24-inch Braun range hood. Not too much interesting information, although it does say down here in the bottom right that for lighting it's going to take one 75-watt bulb, which is not included. So, oh well, that's all right. Nothing else super special about the box. I think on the back it's got some installation instructions. So what's interesting is I guess they tell you how to install it if you have ducting, but this particular unit has no ducting, right? It's a self-contained fan. So they have down here, they have other installation instructions for non-ducted, which is what we're going to do here in a little bit. You've also got some other information about tools needed and some other information about the different models that are available. So with that being said, I think we can go ahead and pop this guy out of the box. All right, let's see what's an easy way to do that. Maybe just pull these the top up. It's got these giant, those huge staples. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Okay, it's got some information here on the top about important about how to get it out of the box. I guess maybe the sheet metal is too thin, and if you pull it incorrectly, it could damage it. So I guess we're going to try to be careful about that. Let's see. Okay, it looks like it's just going to pull straight out. There we go. Okay, and there's nothing really in the box, so let's get rid of the box. Okay. And then we can take a look at the range hood here. All right, so here's the hood. Looks like it comes with some instructions here. Let's say, yep, instructions on, I guess, again, how to install. So we're going to go walk through this a little bit later. We'll set up that off to the side for now. And here's the range hood. So, well, it's got some nice plastic film here to protect it in transit, I suppose. So I guess we can take that off. No need for that now. Okay, so on the front, looks like you've got a selector here to turn the light on, and then you can turn the fan either to low or high. Again, the fan is kind of interesting. I guess it should probably pull through this filter, and it doesn't really exhaust anywhere. It should just basically, let's see if there's any, yeah, I think all it does is just literally suck fumes through this filter. Here's the place for the light, and yes, if you look, I don't know if this is going to come, oh yeah, here, this shield comes off, and yay, look at that, there's no light bulb included, so I guess we're going to have to include ourselves a 75 watt bulb. But let's see, what else? There should be, okay, we're going to have to look at this and figure out where is the power cables, because we're obviously going to have to hook up 120 volt AC to the fan as well as the light. So that's all that comes in the box. Not a whole ton, but again, this is a economy range hood. So let's go ahead and see if we can pop this open and get the cables and get it wired up. All right, so as you saw in our unboxing, unfortunately, you know, they did not supply a power cable, so I had to go cannibalize a power cable off of some other electronic and wire it up. And also, they did not supply a light bulb, so I had to put in a light bulb. But anyway, the first thing we want to do is just wire this thing up and test it out. So let's try the light. Yep, light looks good. Let's try the fan. Yep. Okay, so this is now wired up. Let's see if we can get this thing installed in the van. All right, so I've printed these, 3D printed these two brackets here, which slide over the curtain rod, and the idea now is on this bracket, I'm just going to slide the rear edge of the hood. So the oven, or excuse me, the stove, the range hood is just going to sit kind of like that on the bracket, and then I'll just pass a bolt through it to secure it. So that's the plan. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can get that to happen. All right, so I've got it mounted. The brackets there are in the back are holding it to the closet rod. And now, to keep it from actually just twisting and falling down, what I've done is I've tied, I don't know if you can see it too easily right here, I basically tied some paracord from one corner up here through the ceiling, through this headliner, into the crossbar, cross brace that is part of the structure of the van. So again, if you're interested more in what it looks like under the headliner or how I tied this on and secured it to that crossbar, check out the other video that I made where I was actually showing how I got this entire closet rod to be mounted on the side of the van, because I use the same system. As you note, the closet rod also has a string paracord going up through the headliner into the ceiling. So there we go. It looks like this is all on right now, so it's pretty good. It's pretty stable. It's pretty sturdy. Everything seems to work. Now the next thing we've got to do is take off this filter. And there is the fan. So I would like to put some desiccant. So I've got this little desiccant packet right here. I like to be able to put that up inside behind the fan so all the moisture gets sucked in and through this desiccant so that it will dry it out. And then also I want to throw in some activated charcoal bags up there as well to kind of deal with the odor. So the idea is when I turn on the fan, it's going to suck all of the moist, smelly vapors or whatnot from wherever I'm cooking up into the fan, and then it actually will come out theoretically through the front vent. So I've got to work out a way to get this desiccant and the activated charcoal packets back there. So let's go ahead and take off the fan. I think all I got to do is take off these brackets, and then I should have some access and space inside, and we can see if we can get these other items secured. All right, so here we go. We're testing it out. So I'm cooking some ramen and some Spam, and I guess later on we're going to do some baked beans. So I guess this is a good test for the odors and the humidity. As you can kind of see, the pot is starting to boil, and I've got the hood running pretty much right now. So it's got the lights gone, and we've got the fan, and it is seeming to suck some of the vapor up there. It's catching it. So I guess we'll see how this goes. But otherwise, it seems to be working pretty good so far. Pretty happy with it. Oh, and I'm watching Goonies over here while I'm cooking. Can't get much better than that, right? This is a good time camping out in the winter in the van. All right, so here it is, Dinner Champions. We got beans, ramen and Spam. So overall, this seemed to work quite well. So it did suck up a lot of the vapor and the humidity. I know you can't see it in the camera, but it doesn't really smell as strong as you might think. Now let's check out the humidity actually inside, and also that seems to be okay. So that's the lower number down there, 52% relative humidity. I should have taken a reading beforehand, but you know, this is not up in the 70s or 80s, so it's fairly reasonable. So I'm hoping that this is working and doing its job. So the desiccant is basically drying out the air, and yeah, those activated charcoal bags plus that filter is filtering the smokes, the odors. So yeah, I think this is going to work. So let's do a couple more tests, and maybe we'll be more careful about monitoring the humidity before and after, and we'll see how this performs. All right, so we've got a little bit of a problem. I was driving around last night, hit a few bumps and heard this clang in the back, and the entire kitchen hood, as you can see, sort of just fell down. So what ended up happening was, as you remember, I secured it to the rail, the overhead support rail, using this paracord, and look, it's frayed and it's cut through. So the stress, I think, of the sharpness of this sheet metal, right? I had it hooked through here, right? And the fact that it had constant pressure on it and constant tension on that paracord, combined with bumping around, means that in about, it was only about, I don't know, 2 months. 2 months of driving around was enough to basically fray this paracord and cut through it, which I'm actually kind of surprised at. So, all right, we're gonna have to come back to the drawing board a little bit here, and I think I'm gonna try to cut a little bit of this sheet metal out, and then maybe make a little bit of a grommet so that the sheet metal won't cut into the cord and cause this problem in the future. So, all right, let's try that right now. All right, so we're back up and running. So I've now doubled up the amount of paracord here, and in addition, let me come down here and I'll show you, I 3D printed this this grommet out of PETG that will hopefully take off all the stress on and make it so the paracord is not touching the sheet metal. So hopefully this will fix the problem. So I guess I'll report back to you in another couple of months. All right, so there you have it, a pretty easy way to install an unvented range hood in your van, camper, or RV. That being said, I think as we've seen in the video, it's not the perfect approach, right? This definitely is not as effective as a dedicated ceiling-mounted exhaust fan, which does actually suck and vent all of your interior humidity and smoke to the exterior, right? As we saw, this is really just a convenient way to kind of capture a lot of those the smoke and the fumes and filter it at least through the deodorizer, as well as the small desiccant dehumidifier, which works all right. One thing I will mention is it's a little bit of a pain in the neck to kind of get the desiccant out and dry it out and replace it, but I think that's the price you kind of pay for having a system like this, where you don't actually have to cut into the roof of the van and make any giant big holes in the roof. The other thing that I've discovered that works okay as well is I've actually got myself one of these splatter shields, and this is a charcoal infused splatter shield, so it's supposed to also catch kind of odors. So if I'm grilling or cooking or frying something up in the pan, if you just place this on top of it, that's just one extra layer of catching some of those odors before they can escape into the interior of your van and basically permeate the interior headliner and all the other surfaces. But that works reasonably well. So again, I've been using this for over a year, and I seem to like it. I'm a little on the fence if it's worth the amount of space that it takes up. It definitely makes it a little bit more difficult to use the sink when you've got this thing that you need to hunch over. But on a cold winter's day where it's snowing and blowing outside, and you don't want to cook outside, this gives you an option to cook inside, which is great. Again, in the interest of full disclosure, probably 95% of the time I end up cooking outside, because we're usually camping in the summer or the spring, and I can just go outside to the picnic table and bring the stove outside, and that avoids this entire issue. So again, is a little bit questionable to tote this thing around for the rest of the year for those, you know, few winter months where it really is a necessity to cook inside. The other time that does work well also is if you're sort of, you know, quote unquote stealth camping and you want to stay inside the vehicle and you don't want to be pitching a picnic table and doing all your cooking outside. With this, I can basically shut all the doors and keep everything 100% self-contained inside the van. And I don't have this exhaust vent on the top of the van that basically screams, hey, this is a camper van, someone's hanging out in here. So again, for my usage, I think it's worth it. I think it makes sense, and I'm happy that I've got it in here. So with that being said, I guess this is probably a good spot to leave it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, I also hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. Surprisingly, if you just scroll a little ways down there and click on that subscribe button, it really does help me continue making these videos. And remember, I do try to release new videos every Monday, so I hope to have a lot more van videos on the channel in the future. The other way that you can support the channel is via Patreon. I want to take a minute to thank some of our existing patrons for their support. The nice thing about the Patreon support route is that 100% of the proceeds that the channel receives via Patreon will be directed towards K through 12 science, engineering, and adventures for kids and young adults. So with that being said, I hope I'll catch you at a future video and we can all learn something new together. Until then, I think I'll sign off. Talk to you later. Bye.